$1,091, and that would be item 11A. So if the committee members would please entertain a motion to adopt the agenda, including 11A.
So moved.
I have a motion by Wright.
Second.
Second by Drew. All in favor? Any opposed? Agenda has been adopted. I've got a couple committee members up here. They're just questioning because they don't know anything about it, so they really don't know if they want to add it or not. Just to let the committee members know, Beth Ann Furley is in the audience, and she will be telling us what this is about so that we can take a vote on it. But it is time sensitive. They just got the contract. The agenda has been adopted. Now is the time for general public comment. This is a time for members of the audience to address the seated committee about any item that is currently not on the agenda. I currently have no speaker request forms for general public comment. Am I missing anyone who would like to speak about something that is currently not on the agenda? Seeing none, we're moving on to public comment for consent items. Consent items on today's agenda are items 1 through 8. This is a time for any person in the audience who would like to address the committee on any consent item 1 through 8. I currently have no speaker request forms for any consent items. Am I missing anyone? Seeing none, public comment is now closed, and we're moving on for the consideration of consent items 1 through 8. Chair recognizes Alderwoman Drew.
Item number 6, please.
I'm going to pull item number 6. Any other committee members? Chair recognizes the Finance Director. You have an item to pull, Pauline?
Yes, please. Number 3.
Seeing no further items, I would entertain a motion to approve consent items 1 through 8, except items number 3 and item number 6. Got a motion by Laurenti to approve items 1 through 8, except items 3 and 6.
Second.
I've got a second by Drew. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Items 1 through 8, except items 3 and 6, have been approved. Item number 3 is the resolution number 2015-078B, the levying of assessment for cleanup of miscellaneous property. The chair recognizes our Finance Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I need to remove number 2, Albin and Christina Spreezer, as they came in yesterday and paid their assessment in full.
I've got a motion by Wright to approve item number 3 with the exception as described by the Finance Director, second by Laurenti. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6. Item number 6 is to authorize the Mayor and Finance Officer to sign the change order to professional services contract with Barry Dunn. Chair recognizes Alderwoman Drew.
Move to approve.
I've got a motion by Drew to approve item number 6, a second by Laurenti. Alderwoman Drew, you still have the floor.
Yes, I just need some clarification on this, if I could, from Pauline Sumption. So what happened as I read it, you weren't able to complete all the consulting services, so you have to extend this for a month or so?
Correct. What happened is when we got into, and Jeff could probably explain this a whole lot better than I can because I haven't been involved with the payroll portion so much. But what happened when we got into it, there's so many details and so much setup required that we've had to have not only additional Tyler folks here, but also our consultants as well. We've also had to extend the go-live date. We were originally going to go live, I think it was April, and then we now have had to extend it for a couple of reasons, one of which I'm not at liberty to discuss, but in a public meeting. But it will now be January 1 that we're looking at for go-live date. So because of both the time involved and the other issue, we will need additional time with the consultant.
Okay, and so we're looking at January 1 of this year, the go-live date?
2016.
2016. Well, yeah, that's next year, whatever. Okay, that's what I needed to know. I wasn't really clear on why we had to expend more funding on this particular project, so thank you.
Chair recognizes Alderman Loren. I take that back. Seeing no further speaker lights, I do have a motion and a second. All in favor of item number 6? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We are now on to public comment for non-consent items on today's agenda, and that is items 9 through 11A. And I do have one speaker request form. It is for item number 10 and 11. And Mr. Jay Mendel, if you would approach the podium, state your name and your affiliation to the city, please, and then you have 3 minutes to address the committee members seated today.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
sir.
Jay Mendel, I'm the president of the Black Hills Home Builders Association. I'm here to express our support for items 10 and 11. We believe this would help bring a little stability to City Hall with the constant changing of the guard and constant campaign mode of the mayor and the aldermen. It's hard to get anything moving forward as a vision when you can get going and then it's more turnover at the city. So at this time, we would like to see these go forward just to help provide a little stability.
Thank you, sir. Any other further speaker request forms that I am missing? Seeing none, public comment on non-consent items 9 through 11A is now closed. We are now considering the items separately. Item number 9 is the second reading and recommendation of ordinance number 6070, reclassifying the executive assistant program coordinator within the mayor's office so the position is no longer an officer by repealing section 2.12.070 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. This was referred from the September 8th City Council meeting. This item is being smoked out, which means that this body can make a recommendation of approval, denial, or send to council without recommendation, but this item is going to council Monday night. Chair would entertain a motion, or I have a motion by Alderman Wright to approve item number 9.
Second.
I've got a second by Darla Drew. Any further discussion? Chair recognizes Alderman Laurenti.
Well, thank you, Chair, and I think most people understand where I stand on this, and I'll be speaking again at the next full council meeting, but this kind of goes back to, I think, actually what the mayor said when he was sworn in, where he said that he had great respect for the voters of Rapid City and their power. And I'll be honest with you, this is removing a position from the ultimate eyes of not only us, the council, which approved making this an executive or an officer position unanimously. We did it unanimously, and I think it's most of the people, except for maybe Alderwoman Drew, that were on the council during that time, and we voted unanimously to make it an officer position. By doing this, there's no longer any consent and advisement by the council. It's going to be said that this is still a competitive position, but that goes back to the days of before, when mayors appointed whoever they wanted. The fact of the matter is, the mayor will ultimately choose who they want, and there will be no consent or advisement by the council. And in my opinion, that is lessening the power of the people, because they will know less unless they're really having to dig in and check in. Otherwise, they would see it at a public meeting, us giving advice and consent to the mayor on the appointment. And I think it's a wrong move. It's a wrong direction. It's a move going back to days that I think this council and this government doesn't belong. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Alderman Wright.
I don't agree with that approach. I feel that we voted on it several years ago because the mayor requested it and so forth, but I think that under the competitive bid process or competitive job selection process, that the job will be less political and it would be a regular employee protected by the agreements and job description, and I think that it will be in line with the other positions similar that we have in the city. And I don't think it's in violation of the intent or the power of the people to vote, because they don't elect any other officials of the city other than us. And I personally think this is appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Alderwoman Drew.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I too can support the mayor's ability to select his own assistant. I think it just adds a level of bureaucracy that we don't need in voting for this particular person. And I trust the mayor to choose wisely, as he would any assistant or employee of the city. So I will be voting in favor of this when it comes to council on Monday night.
Thank you. Seeing no further lights from committee members, we do have a motion to approve item number 9. We do have a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 3-1. 3 in favor. Alderman Laurenti voting no. That'll be a recommendation going to the city council meeting on Monday night. Item number 10 is the introduction and first reading of ordinance number 6078, increasing the mayor's term of office by amending section 2.12.020 of the Rapid City Municipal Code.
Move to deny.
I have a motion by Laurenti to deny. Is there a second? Motion fails for not having a second. I've got a motion by Drew to approve. Second. I've got a second by Wright. Any chair recognizes Alderman Wright.
If possible, I'd like to see at least discussion Monday night without a friendly amendment at this time, that the mayor's term be changed from 4 to 3, and that term be elected in a year where there is not a council election, so that we don't run into the situation now where some members of the council can run and keep their seat, others cannot. And the way it's set on a 4-year, I don't know if it could work. But I support the longer terms. And it looks like our council may have some comments. I yield. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Alderman Laurenti.
Thank you, Chair, and I would support at least amending it at this point to that. I think we could do that at this level. I think that would be appropriate for us to do that before we send it to them. So I'm hoping somebody will make that motion to amend it, and I'll second that, but I won't support it. I won't support it ultimately. I'll support the amendment because it at least brings it down to where the council is at 3 years. But I don't believe this is the appropriate place, or we are the appropriate people to make this decision. I know others will disagree with me. The fact of the matter is we already have too many of the elected positions, and the next item is going to be for the council, which I will oppose. Unopposed. These positions are often unopposed. And I think lengthening the term is going to make it an even smaller pool of people, because they will have to commit 3 years, especially if they're new and they're not familiar with what this job really takes. The amount of time to be, very proficient at it, to be, professional at it. There's some things you do need to learn, but if you can't learn it in the first 3 to 6 months of doing this position, honestly, it is a steep learning curve, but it is something that an elected official should be able to handle. 2-year terms are still being used by our state government, and they're still being used by our national government, and it works for them. They have long-term projects that they're working on that are large dollar items, and somehow our state and our federal government are able to operate under 2-year terms, the House of Representatives. So I need somebody to explain to me how this is greater continuity when we all know there's only one person on this council that hasn't served or is in the process of serving a second term, which will be at least 4 years. There's only one, and I believe, if I'm right, it's Alderwoman Drew, and that's only because she is serving her first term. So the fact of the matter is, in fact, for mayors as well, I can't remember the last mayor that didn't serve at least 2 terms. So I don't understand where this continuity, it keeps getting said, but the fact of the matter is there isn't any substance behind it. So I'd like to hear that, when in fact there are, like I had just said, only one person on this council that has not been reelected. And if this isn't a reflection of taking power away from the people, somebody else needs to explain that to me, how if the people can only weigh in now every 4 years instead of 2, and if they've got a mayor or a council person, which is coming up next, that isn't representing them the way that they had hoped or the way that maybe they were promised during their election, God forbid that ever happens, that an elected official would not disclose or would say something during an election to get elected and then do or not do what they said they were going to do, that the people now have to wait longer to replace that person who is no longer representing them. I need to hear from the mayor. I challenge the mayor to come before this council body to tell us how this is not a taking of power from the people. When he was sworn in, he said this was one of the things he respected the most. Tell me how this is not taking power away from the people to be able to choose their leadership in government. I yield.
Chair recognizes Alderman Wright.
I'd like to make a friendly amendment to reflect a 3-year term, staggered so it will not conflict with council. And if I can have a second, we have some discussion, I think our turn.
The amendment, just for clarification, the amendment is to amend this ordinance to include or to reduce the mayoral term from 4 to 3.
Correct.
And a second by Drew.
Also, it wouldn't conflict with the council elections. If we are, may I have to,
That may be mutually exclusive. So is your amendment to reduce the term of office from the mayor from 4 to 3?
yes.
Okay, that is the amendment, and we have a second. Alderman Wright, you still have the floor.
The intent there is to allow the mayor office campaign to be separate from the city council, because as it stands today, if a person is on the council and wishes to run for mayor, and if we look back upon our history as a community, many of our mayoral candidates have come from city council. They cannot compete for both offices. If they run for mayor and they're not elected, they're out. Or if they run for council, they can't run for mayor. I just would like to see it staggered, and I've heard that from many constituents, and that's why that suggestion is made. And that could be discussed Monday night. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Alderwoman Drew.
My question here is for Joel Landine. May I ask a question, please?
Yes, you may.
If we elect a mayor, is there no recourse for the people if they really don't want this person in office for more than 2 years?
There is a process to recall the mayor, but I wouldn't want you to think it would be an easy task. It's not meant to be easy to recall an elected official.
But I think it allays some of the fear of putting in 3 years, because there would be recourse. I mean, if something was really that traumatic, the person could be recalled and subsequently let go of the mayor's office, right?
Sure.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further lights, I would also like to ask the city attorney a question concerning the amended motion on the floor at this time. I understand what Alderman Wright is trying to say, Joel, but could the way I read the staggering of this is that the 4-year term, and one of the reasons the mayor put the next election for the mayor out 2 years. So in other words, the 2017 election for mayor would still only be a 2-year term to fulfill, and the actual fulfilling of this ordinance to increase the mayoral term to 4 years would not take effect until the 2019 election. And with that, the staggering of the schedule, if both of these ordinances are implemented, actually provides that opportunity for the city to save money by having occasionally a year that there are no elections, and it does stagger the mayoral election amongst the 5 city council members that are up for election 1 year versus the next year, so that, as Alderman Wright was asking for, everyone would have an opportunity to actually run for that position without having to make a choice of running for their council seat or the mayoral seat.
Yes, for the most part, that statement was true. The way it was proposed with the 4-year term, it would not work like it works now, where if you are on the same schedule as the mayoral election, you will always be on the mayoral election schedule. It would actually, the way it was proposed, it would alternate. There would actually be years where there was no council member up for election in the mayoral election year, and there would be years in which it would be The way when I graphed it out, it was Council Group A and Council Group B. It would alternate about evenly between those two groups. I think there was 1 year where, and then the other advantage, as you pointed out, was that there was like every third year there wouldn't be an election, so you would save the election costs and you wouldn't have an election every third year. If you on Monday night move forward with the proposed amendment, there will be an election every year. So you wouldn't have that cost savings at all. But you would have, as Alderman Wright said, then all the council members could run for mayor every mayoral election. But we definitely gave that some consideration when the ordinance was brought forward, but it was decided the 4-year term for the chief executive was appropriate, and that it would to some degree alleviate the problem that is perceived to exist now that half the council can't run for mayor. But it also gave the advantage of having 1 year without an election where you had that cost savings and where you didn't have somebody campaigning in that year. So,
Thank you. Chair recognizes Alderwoman Drew.
Now, I don't know how to do this, but I think that I would like to withdraw it. Yeah, and go back to what we were originally voting on. Alderman Laurenti has said that he is opposed to it either way, so the 3 years doesn't really make a difference to him. The 4 years is the only way we can really save the city money, and just the trials of going through elections every year. So I can go back to the 4 years. I'd like to withdraw my support of that amendment.
I currently, Chair recognizes Alderman Wright.
I support the lengthened term of the mayor's office, but I will not support a 4-year term.
All right. Chair
Excuse me,
recognizes-
for the reasons that I stated earlier, that it complicates the ability for council members to run. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Alderman Laurenti.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to offer an amendment to the motion to also include a maximum number of terms at 3. If we're going to have a longer term for the mayor, I believe that we should have term limits. And so if I can get a second.
I currently have an amendment being proposed by Alderman Laurenti to also include a term limit of no more than 3 terms in the elected position. There is no second amendment. Okay, I do have a second for the amendment to also restrict item number 10 to impose a maximum term limit of no more than 3 terms. Chair recognizes Alderwoman Drew.
So when you're looking at that, Alderman Laurenti, you're thinking of the 4-year term or the 3-year term?
Well, the amendment for the 4 years is no longer in existence, so for the 3
3
years.
years. So I guess my question is to Joel Landine, can we do term limits?
I'll defer that answer until Monday night. I want to look at that. It hasn't been brought up before. Generally on the local level, I know on the federal level you can't do term limits because it conflicts with federal law, but the Constitution. But on the local level, we obviously have term limits at the state legislative level, but we're not a home rule city. If we were a home rule city, I'd say yes, you probably could do term limits. But because we're not a home rule city, I'd want to take a closer look at that prior to Monday night.
Okay, so that clears that up for me, that we really don't know at this time if we can pass the amendment for term limits. So we're just kind of back to the original amendment by Jerry, I believe.
Alderwoman Drew, you'd have to withdraw your second in order to go.
Withdraw my second again. Okay, I'll withdraw my second because we'll just don't have an answer right now.
So I currently do not have support for the term limit amendment that was on the table. We are back to the original discussion of item number 10. Chair recognizes Alderman Wright.
The motion before us without the second on my amendment to 3 is to go forward with 4. Is that correct?
The original ordinance sets the mayor's term at 4 years, and it starts the election year of 2019.
And you have the unknown question about term limits for Monday night?
I believe the city attorney will be looking into that for that discussion for Monday night.
is it possible for an amendment to send this to council without recommendation? Because there's,
You can make a substitute motion to send to council without
I'll make a
recommendation.
substitute motion to send to council without recommendation.
I've got a motion, a substitute motion to send this item number 10 to council without recommendation, a second by Drew. I guess that's the original motion, because the original motion died lack of a second. So I stand corrected, Alderman Wright. This is your first motion. I've got a motion by Wright to send item number 10 to council without recommendation Monday night, second by Drew. Any further discussion? Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. We have a vote of 3-1 to send to council without recommendation for Monday night. Alderman Laurenti voted no. Item number 11, the introduction and first reading of ordinance number 6079 to establish the qualifications and term of office for aldermen by adding section 2.08.005 to the Rapid City Municipal Code. Move to deny. Got a motion by Laurenti to deny. Any second?
Second.
I've got a second by Drew. Any further discussion? Chair recognizes Alderman Wright.
I support 3-year terms, and I'll vote accordingly. If this motion is to deny, I'll vote against it. Thank you.
Any further discussion? No further lights up here. I will state that I will be voting not in favor of denying item number 11 or making the recommendation for a denial. That will leave the vote at 2-2. I'm going to look to the city's attorney. Does that automatically go to council without recommendation at that point, or does it show a tie of 2-2 from this committee?
I think the cleanest thing to do would then at that point, since you have an even split, assuming that is the vote, that you take it and do a vote to take to council without recommendation.
So I'll leave it to the committee members here. We currently do have a motion on the floor that we can vote on to deny item number 11, which would send it to council with a recommendation from this body of a tie vote, it looks like. We have not voted yet. Or I'll entertain a substitute motion. I've got a substitute motion by Alderman Wright to send to council without recommendation. Is there a second? Second by Drew. We are now voting on the substitute motion, which is to send item number 11 to council Monday night without recommendation. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Aye. We have a vote to send item number 11 to council meeting Monday night without recommendation. The vote is 3-1. Alderman Laurenti voted no on sending item number 11 to council without recommendation Monday night. We have one more item that is a walk-on for today. It is item number 11A. The title is the agreement between the City of Rapid City and Veolia, I hope I'm saying that right, Environmental Services for the Household Hazardous Waste Event in the amount of $49,789.91. This is an event that is held annually. And we do have Beth Ann Furley in the audience. And Beth Ann, since this is being walked on, if you could please come up and give us a synopsis of why this is being walked on. Yes, please, approach the podium. Can you please let us know why this is being walked on today's account to committee member, and then stand ready to answer any questions from the seated committee members.
Sure. Thank you very much. This event we held...
Beth Ann, could you please identify yourself and your affiliation for the city before you...
Sorry.
Thank you.
Beth Ann Furley, and I'm the Recycling Education Coordinator for the city, for the Solid Waste Division. Veolia sent me their contract a week ago. It was too late to get it on to the agenda. The reason why it needs to go through council is the price has gone up, and the reason why the price has gone up is the first time we had it, it was based on 500 vehicles for $25,000. When we held the event the first time, we saw over 800 vehicles, and so we processed close to $50,000. Actually had to come back to council to be approved to be able to pay it. It is an unknown as to how many vehicles will come through this event. This event actually collects household hazardous waste from regional residents, which is any gasolines, any oil-based products, things that people have accumulating in their garages or in their basements. We do not want these items going down the sewer that will end up in Rapid Creek. We cannot take these items in the Rapid City landfill because we are not supported to be able to do that. So to be able to accommodate our residents and to be able to get these chemicals out of our area, we need to have a company come in, take them out of here, and be able to dispose of them properly. So at that point in time, the contract came in. It was too late to get it on to the agenda in the proper way, so it needs to come on as a walk-on.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Alderman Wright.
Thank you. Beth, this will also include things like mercury thermostats, thermometers,
Yes,
pesticides, herbicides, bug spray. Okay.
yes. On the website, it has the list of everything.
It's fully funded, budget, and program.
Yes, fully funded by the Rapid City landfill.
Thank you.
Seeing no further lights, one other clarifying point, Beth Ann, I believe you also told me that this amount, even though it's more than it was proposed or what was proposed, or what you were anticipating, it is already in the budget. So there will be no
Exactly.
supplemental appropriation for this amount.
Correct, correct.
Just for the
And it
committee
is a
members.
variable also, because if we process over 1,200 cars, vehicles, then it may go up. If we process below, then it may go down. So it is a variable as to who shows up.
Thank you, Beth Ann. And Chair recognizes Jerry Wright.
One other question. Don't anticipate it happening here, but if you were to have set a limit, are you going to stop people when you hit a point if it gets excessive or not? Or are you just going to let it come in until the day's done?
We will stop them based on what Veolia has to be able to carry back across to Minnesota. They bring enough containers, things like that, to hold everything in based on our 25,000, which is the 800 vehicles plus. When they run out is when they have to stop.
Okay.
Last time, we could not take the used oil, so we had to stop those people.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Alderwoman Drew.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. How does the public know about this? How do you get the word out on this particular disposal?
First off, we've had people calling for the past
Already? Okay.
month, for the past year already. It is on the website. It is on Facebook. It's on Twitter. It's on Instagram. There will be a banner across Main Street. There will be real estate signs down Omaha and on Campbell Street. I will be on KOTA radio this next Thursday.
I think you left off Snapchat, just saying.
I only have one person on me for Snapchat, so I don't do that.
All right, thank you. You've got it covered. Thank you.
Seeing no further lights, I may have missed it, but I'm going to go ahead and say it because I did not hear the actual date, but this is the authority to host the Community Household Hazardous Waste Drop-Off event. It will be held at the Central States Fairgrounds on Saturday, October 3rd. And just wanted to put that plug in for you, Beth Ann. I know
8
you're
a.m.
covering
to 1
everything else,
p.m.
but what is it?
8 a.m. to 1 p.m.
8 a.m. till 1 p.m. on Saturday, October 3rd. And
It's free.
And it's free. You can get rid of all of your hazardous waste material. If you've got any questions as far as what will actually be taken, because Beth Ann did say that there may be limitations of what will be taken, go ahead and call Beth Ann, and she'll be able to tell you what you can bring down.
Thank you.
There's no motion.
Do not have a motion on the floor. I thank you, Maggie. I've got a motion by Laurenti to approve.
Second.
Second by Drew. No further discussion. I will entertain a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. Got a motion by Laurenti to adjourn, second by Drew. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.